A History of the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. As of today, the WWE is one of the oldest and largest professional entertainment wrestling organizations in the world. It has produced elected officials like Jesse Ventura, podcasters like Stone Cold Steve Austin and Chris Jericho, Hollywood stars such as Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Batista, and of course, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It's an organization that has spanned several decades now. Now, let's take a journey through the history of WWE. The 1950s. In 1953, Jess McMahon, a successful boxing promoter in New York City, and Toots Mondt, a wrestling promoter also in New York City. Together, they would form a partnership to create Capital Wrestling Corporation, or CWC. Also, in 1953, the CWC would join the NWA. Not that NWA. The National Wrestling Alliance, which was a wrestling governing body of other wrestling organizations. Back in these days, each wrestling alliance had a territory, and CWC's territory was most of the Northeast, in cities like New York, Baltimore, and New Jersey. In 1954, Jess McMahon passed away, and his son, Vincent J. McMahon, would come in to help run the business. Let's also get a couple of terms defined. A face is a wrestler that's a fan favorite and considered a hero archetype, and a heel is a wrestler that often gets booed and considered a villain. Notable wrestlers of this era include Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, who would later influence Nature Boy Ric Flair, Johnny Valentine, and the Fabulous Moolah. The 1960s. In 1961, the National Wrestling Alliance voted Buddy Rogers into an NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. On June 30th, Rogers took the title from Pat O'Connor in front of 38,000 fans at Comiskey Park, which set a new North American professional wrestling attendance record. However, during the next 2 years, promoters in other territories outside of the Northeast voiced their frustrations with Rogers being the champion and mostly wrestling in the Northeast. So, the NWA would devise a plan for him to lose the belt. In January of 1963, Buddy Rogers lost the NWA World Heavyweight Championship to Lou Thesz in a one-fall match in Toronto, Canada. The CWC didn't agree with that decision, so the next day, the organization left the NWA and changed its name to Worldwide Wrestling Federation, or WWWF. Rogers would join the WWWF and be crowned the Federation World Heavyweight Champion. He would later lose the title to Bruno Sammartino in May of 1963. Bruno Sammartino would hold the heavyweight title for 7 years. The 1970s. On January 18th, 1971, Sammartino would finally lose the heavyweight title at Madison Square Garden to Ivan Koloff. Koloff would lose the title to Pedro Morales, who held the title from 1971 until 1973. He would lose it to Stan Stasiak. During this time, only babyface wrestlers were allowed to have long championship reigns. In 1971, Vince K. McMahon, who was the son of Vincent McMahon, began commentating for the organization. Also, in 1971, Luke Graham and Tarzan Tyler held the inaugural Tag Team Championship within the Wrestling Federation, the first team to hold such an honor. In March of 1973, Andre the Giant, who stood at 7'4", debuted in the Wrestling Federation. He made his debut in New York's Madison Square Garden, facing off against Buddy Wolf. Andre easily defeated Wolf, and from there, he became a fan favorite. Andre the Giant would go on to be undefeated for 15 years in the Wrestling Federation. In 1979, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation would change its name to World Wrestling Federation, now the WWF. The 1980s. Oh yeah, the 80s. The decade that brought you movies like Princess Bride, featuring Andre the Giant. Rocky III, with Sylvester Stallone, and featuring a growing wrestling phenom named Hulk Hogan. In Predator, an action movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Carl Weathers, featuring Jesse the Body Ventura, and typical 80s tropes like big guns, big muscles, and the manliest handshake in cinema history. Those testosterone levels are off the charts.
Vegeta, what did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000! 9,000? There's no way that can be right! It can't!
I apologize. I got carried away. Back to the video. In 1980, Vince McMahon, the son of Vincent McMahon Sr., had founded Titan Sports Incorporated. And 2 years later, in 1982, McMahon purchased the WWF from his father. He wanted to make the WWF the greatest wrestling organization in the world. He began breaking the National Wrestling Alliance rules by expanding the company nationally, by promoting in areas outside the company's Northeast territories, and signing talent from other companies. He also expanded the business more on television and was featured heavily on MTV. As the Federation was growing in popularity, there was another growing wrestling promotion by the name of World Championship Wrestling, or known as WCW. They would compete for TV ratings, fans, and scalping wrestlers from each other. In the early 80s, Hulk Hogan wrestled for the Federation off and on. However, in 1983, he would wrestle for them more exclusively and become the growing face of the business. In 1984, Hulk Hogan beat Iron Sheik for the championship, and he would hold on to it for 3 years. In March of 1985, the first WrestleMania took place in Madison Square Garden. Some of the matches included Wendy Richter versus Leilani Kai for the WWF Women's Championship, Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd, and the main event was a tag team match with Hulk Hogan teamed with Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. The attendance for the event was 19,000 people. The event was seen by over 1 million viewers through closed-circuit television. Also, in 1985, Macho Man Randy Savage would join the Federation. He would grow to be a fan favorite with his ring attire, raspy voice, intensity, and crazy but hilarious wrestling promo.
Intercontinental Champion of the World, Macho Man Randy Savage.
Means nothing.
Nothing.
Means nothing.
Nothing means nothing. What do you mean by that?
Oh, I'm talking about all the way to the top, yeah. Unjustifiably in a position that I'd rather not be in, but the cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Don't forget about his catchphrase, "Ooh yeah," and his signature move, the flying elbow drop. At WrestleMania 2 on April 7th, 1986, Andre the Giant continued to display his dominance by winning a 20-man battle royal, which featured top National Football League stars and wrestlers. However, in 1987, at WrestleMania 3, one of the most iconic matches in history took place. The undefeated Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. Andre the Giant was defending his undefeated streak, and Hogan was defending his 3-year title reign. The 6'7" Hogan versus the 7'4" Andre the Giant. Hogan would win the match by picking up the 500-pound giant and slamming him to the ring, and then leg dropping him for the final blow. Analysts believe the attendance was estimated at 78,000 people. In 1988, at WrestleMania 4, Macho Man Randy Savage would finally win the WWF Championship for the first time and would retain the title for a year. The 1990s. Oh yeah, it's the 90s. The era that brought us movies like Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. Wait, is that The Big Show? Universal Soldier, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Goldberg. Waterboy, an Adam Sandler comedy. Wait a minute, is that Big Show again? It is. And Kick-Ass Slim Jim commercials with Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah! Give me those Slim Jim!
Good old nostalgia. In the early 90s, the organization was going through another transition period from the older wrestling personalities of the 80s to the attitude personalities of the 90s. Wrestlers like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, The Undertaker, The Rock, and even Vince McMahon was getting in on the action. Also, more women were entering into the organization, like Chyna, Sable, and Stephanie McMahon, Vince McMahon's daughter. In 1991, Undertaker would defeat Hulk Hogan for the championship at Survivor Series, and at that time become the youngest champion in history at the age of 26. In 1993, WWF Monday Night Raw aired on the USA Network in the prime time slot. Macho Man Randy Savage, Rob Bartlett, and Vince McMahon himself were the announcers. Hulk Hogan departed the organization in 1993 to pursue his career in Hollywood. However, he would join the WCW in '94. In 1995, Stone Cold Steve Austin joined the organization and would grow to become one of the most popular wrestlers of all time. His character was a foul-mouthed Texan that didn't give a shit about authority, constantly taunting the owner of the company and drinking on the job. His signature move, the Stone Cold Stunner. In 1996, The Rock joined and would later become the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, with his charisma and famous catchphrases like asking people their name, and as they were responding, he would tell them, "It doesn't matter what your name is." I remember the catastrophic effect this had on my childhood. In those days, if another child asked for your name, as you were answering, the other child would yell, "It doesn't matter what your name is." How traumatizing. The Rock's signature moves were the Rock Bottom and the People's Elbow. Let's not forget about the group that influenced young boys to get themselves in more trouble than ever before. Yes, I'm talking about D-Generation X and their infamous Suck It taunt, where you raise both hands in the air and cross them down across the genitalia, telling everyone where to put their mouths. The group consisted of Triple H, Shawn Michaels, X-Pac, Chyna, and the New Age Outlaws. And even Mike Tyson was getting in on the action. In 1997, Vince McMahon, in his endless quest for blood, decided that a ring just wasn't cutting it. A ring with only ropes was for the weak. How about a cage with a roof on top? And let's call it Hell in a Cell. The first ever Hell in a Cell match took place in October of '97 between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. Undertaker didn't have enough Hell in a Cell the first time, so he wanted more. The following year, in 1998, he would get his fill by having 2 Hell in a Cell matches in June. On June 15th, a Tornado Tag Team match consisting of Taker and Stone Cold versus Mankind and Kane. However, his 3rd Hell in a Cell match on June 28th versus Mankind was one of the most epic matches in company history. These men beat the out of each other, hitting each other with chairs, throwing each other off the ring and through the ring. Absolutely violent, but entertaining. In February of 1999, the 7-foot-tall Big Show joined the roster after having a successful career in the WCW. He came in as a heel under Vince McMahon. However, he would turn on McMahon at WrestleMania 15. The Big Show's signature move was the chokeslam. Hold up, stop the show. Also, in 1999, one of the greatest rap albums of all time dropped, and that was The Chronic 2001 by Dr. Dre. And this is just a reminder, don't you ever forget about Dr. Dre, do you hear me? Sorry, I've been watching too many wrestling promos. Back to the video. In August of 99, the show SmackDown debuted in Kansas City, Missouri on UPN. Also in 99, Chyna would make history by becoming the first woman to enter into the Royal Rumble. She also became the first woman to win the Intercontinental title by beating the hell out of Jeff Jarrett in a housekeeping match. In October of 99, the company became publicly traded on the US Stock Exchange. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content. This has been another episode of The Voice of Rhyno.